Hey, what's up, guys? Hello, Football Talk here. We're only a few days away from Super Bowl 55, and for my people here on YouTube, I wanted to make a video where I answer the 10 biggest questions that I could come up with when thinking about this matchup. I already put up my in-depth preview of the big game on my page, hellosforfootballtalk.com, and if you're interested, I would strongly suggest checking that out. Plus, you can also follow me on all my social media channels, which I've also linked down below in the description for more content and to stay up to date. But now let's get into these questions and answer them one by one. The first one being, how much does that toe still bother Patrick Mahomes? Coming out of the divisional round versus the Browns, everybody talked about the concussion and what exactly had happened, but Mahomes also suffered turf toe, and you saw how much it bothered him when trying to move, which was also a big factor in the game plan versus the Bills in the AFC Championship game, when they went back to almost like an Alex Smith approach with a lot of the West Coast offense and RPO elements. In this matchup versus the Bucs pass rush especially, mobility will be key for Mahomes. We've seen him at times take those 15-step drops and fight off his back foot, which you give those edge rushers a little easier angle as well to get to you, so he has to be able to move laterally as well, and not just make it easy on the pass rushers, or escape to the outside when the angles that they take are too aggressive. With a makeshift offensive line, getting the ball out quickly will be key here, but also Mahomes extending plays and making things happen off script. Here's Mahomes' pass chart versus Buffalo. As you can see, only 7 of 26 pass attempts were over 10 yards, and he completed all but one of them because the defense had gotten sucked up. Also something to note here, the majority of those passes went to the right side to not put as much pressure on that bad toe. So depending on how big a factor that still is, to follow an approach like that and the mobility for Mahomes to extend plays will be crucial here. The next question I have is, can the Bucs receivers consistently beat press? Also in the conference title game against Buffalo, defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo put together a brilliant game plan on the defensive side of the ball, with a lot of heavy press on the outside and different variations of two high shells, like Tyrann Mathieu dropping down and basically taking on the role as a Mike in Tampa 2, which they were highly successful at throwing off the timing between Josh Allen and the receivers and playing sticky coverage throughout plays. Check out my video breakdown on all my social media channels, Instagram, Twitter, wherever, where I show multiple plays and explain what happened. As well as that worked for them and how good the Buffalo receiving corps is, the Bucs might be even better, and they've now seen it on tape. They have some physical receivers that are very adept at swiping away the hands of defenders and winning off the line, plus the Bucs can give them some help by putting them in stacks and bunches to give them free releases, calling up different drop concept and whatever. On this play against the Bills, you see a little bit of the chess game played between Spags and Josh Allen. Daniel Sorensen here ultimately bails back and they play in a cover 2. But I want you to watch top of the screen here, the corner Travarius Ward on the outside against John Brown. How physical he is staying on top of the route, passing it on late, and taking away that hole. No honey hole shot available here. The next question I have, which trick plays will Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy dig up from the archives? As great as that Chiefs offense is already, Reid and Bieniemy do not shy away from pulling an ace out of their sleeves and calling up trick plays, especially in the big moments, whether it's the key matchups during the regular season, then even more so in the playoffs, and especially the Super Bowl, which we saw last year already. Something they love to do is the reverse pass. They actually already tried it at Tampa Bay back in Week 12, at the end of the opening drive, when they had Travis Kelce trying to throw it back to Mahomes in the end zone. Kelce actually could have easily run it in, but tried to throw in, the pass was knocked down. Then you also have Mahomes being motioned around as the quarterbacks and basically give him a running start on the rollout, or digging up old film and finding some creative stuff that nobody has seen in several years. This, for example, came in last year's Super Bowl versus San Francisco. As we know by now, it's something that they kind of stole from the Rose Bowl in 1948, where you have all three guys in the backfield doing a pirouette, and then Damian Williams taking the ball up the gut. That was for a big 4th down conversion, just short of the goal line, and they scored a touchdown the very next play. Here's the end zone angle again once more. I would actually be shocked if there wasn't at least one trick play that to call up. The next question here is, how will Todd Bowles utilize his resources to limit Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce? The Bucs certainly weren't ready for Tyreek Hill early on in that last meeting, as he had over 200 yards receiving in the first quarter alone, and the Bucs were too confident, plus the Chiefs also helped to create some one-on-ones as well, which nobody in the league can run truly stride for stride with that guy, To me, he's the fastest man in football. Plus, later on when they cleared space underneath, that's when Travis Kelce started work in the middle of the field. Partially in the second quarter, and especially after halftime, what we saw from the Bucs was a lot of bracketing with the safeties, almost like in a two-man, and the safeties were right over the top of those two guys, trying to read the breaks and give their teammates some help, which forced the secondary pieces to beat them in the passing game. And when you look back, that plan worked out pretty well, because the Chiefs scored 17 points in the first quarter, but only 10 through the final 3. On this play from the earlier matchup, you have Tyreek Hill here as the number 3 in trips, with Travis Kelce as the single receiver top of the screen, and that is really their favorite formation. And what you see here, Antoine Wilfield will come down, basically in a cover 1 robber, as the second safety goes deep, and Tyreek here runs a streak across the field, one-on-one with Carlton Davis. And as you can see, just too fast, Mahomes puts the ball out in front, scores a 45-yard touchdown because the safety comes in late, and Tyreek makes him miss as well. They cannot allow a great player to get those kind of chances. And when I get back to the Bucs offense, one of the big questions is, will Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich change up their early down strategy? As much as I can appreciate the Bucs' old school mindset of running the ball with multiple tight ends on the field and a lot of gap scheme runs like duo and power, if there's one thing that we can all take away from analytics, it's that it's more efficient to throw the ball in early downs. Tampa Bay is one of the very few teams in the league that still runs the ball more than they throw it on 1st and 10. And while that can be effective against certain teams that really struggle to stop the power run game, and then you can take your play action shots when you get to 2nd and short, it's not a great strategy usually. The Bills, for example, threw the ball on 64% of their 1st and 10s this past season, which they were much more successful with 62% of those 1st and 10 plays being deemed as successful, according to the website that I'll explain in the next slide. And they still had a higher first down rate when they did run the ball, which they really weren't great at. So like I just referenced, these numbers are from sharpfootballstats.com, with Warren Sharp as one of the biggest analytics gurus. You should certainly check it out, they have a lot of informative numbers. And this, for example, is Tampa Bay's first down play calling, and then the success rate on the right side. A successful play, according to them, is one that picks up at least 40% of the yardage. And as you can see, the Bucs only picked up a first down on 9% of the first down runs. And when you look at the successful play rate overall, they're all the way at the bottom at number 30. So I would certainly advise them to change it up a little bit in the Super Bowl and not get behind the chains as much as they did in the first matchup, because that's when Spagnuolo can really draw up a lot of different stuff and be creative from 3rd downs. Which brings me back to the Kansas City offense, and the question being, can the Chiefs' ancillary offensive pieces win consistently? I've already mentioned this with Todd Bowles' schematic adjustments that he made as that Week 12 matchup went along, of bracketing Hill and Kelce to force the other skill position players on offense to contribute. If those guys can bring a few big plays and have some space to work with when he sent Tyreek vertically down the field, for example, that would be huge. So I'm looking at a Sammy Watkins that has rarely been available for Kansas City this year, and a Marcus Robinson who could be in true man coverage if they put him as the X on the backside of the formation, or Mecole Hardman on a deep in-breaking route, for example, if you can bind that safety down the seams. Here's all the Chiefs players listed by receiving yards this season. As you can tell, there's a massive drop-off from those top 2 guys, who have accounted for more than half of the total production through the air. Kelce set the NFL record for most receiving yards in a season by a tight end, and he did so in 15 games as he sat out Week 17. And Hill once again was among the league leaders in big plays. But getting back to the other side of the ball, the thing that I'm probably looking forward to the most, what is Steve Spagnuolo's plan versus Brady, and how will the Bucs handle his blitz packages? Spags has a proven track record of being a brilliant game plan designer for the big matchups. Go all the way back to 2008, when he held the undefeated Patriots, who had set several offensive records, who had smashed the record books with all the things that they did on offense, to just 14 points. He's tremendous at taking away an opposing team's biggest strength, almost like a Bill Belichick. And what I think sets him apart is the different variations of something that he can throw at you. For example, on tape I saw like 5 different versions of cover 2, whether it's the classic one, an invert cover 2, bailing out late and having a corner come up into the flats, or Matthew dropping down as the robber. He will try to force Brady to hold onto the ball and give guys like Chris Jones and Frank Clark time to get home as pass rushers. However, in that first matchup at Tampa Bay, it was the relentless pressure he provided via blitzing, as he blitzed on 18 of 42 dropbacks. The Bucs offense wasn't advanced far enough at that point and it took time to figure out how to defeat it. However, Brady started shredding those blitzes on consecutive touchdown drives at the end of the game. They will have a better plan early on, and they'll have to be very sound in those adjustments on the fly, receivers running hot routes and all that kind of stuff, while Kansas City may want to be a little more careful and strategic with bringing heat, because the Bucs use plenty of 7 and 8 man protections off heavy play action that could be able to block it up and leave the defense vulnerable over the top. Here's a play from the second half of that Week 12 game, where the Bucs should have had a chance for a big play, but Ronald Jones oversets to the outside on a blitz from Tyrann Mathieu. Brady throws off his back foot, while Scotty Miller gets caught up with the contact and pushed into the boundary, allowing Bashaud Breeland to turn his head and pick off the underthrown ball. See it here again, Rojo, he oversets, Tyrann Mathieu gets a clear shot, Brady can't really step into the throw, and that's Breeland with the interception. And since we're talking about pressure, I'm interested, is there a plan to help those two backup tackles for the Chiefs, and how will they hold up? Left tackle Eric Fisher tore his Achilles late in the AFC Championship game, to go along with Mitchell Schwartz having missed the majority of the season as the stalwart on the other end of the line. Mike Ramos has filled in pretty well at right tackle, but he will now have to switch sides, while Andrew Wally slides outside by one spot, and veteran Steven Wisniewski jumps in at right guard. So that's a new combination for an offensive line that has been shuffling guys around all year long. In this particular matchup, that could be a major issue, because of the guys that the Bucs have on those edges in Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul. That's a clear mismatch in favor of Tampa Bay. Part of the plan to protect Mahomes will be getting the ball out quickly and adapting pieces of that game plan that they used against Buffalo, plus calling up some speed sweeps and screens to not allow those guys to come off the ball as aggressively, but something that they did a few times already in that Week 12 meeting was chipping those guys off the edges with the tight end at the back from 12 personnel. For a team that really wants to spread the field, I'm very interested to see if we get more action from number 48 Nick Keitzer in this game. Here, for example, they have Ace Stewart to the left with Twins to the other side, and as you can see, Keitzer makes first contact before releasing into the flats, while Le'Veon Bell comes over in jet protection off play action to land a shoulder on somebody the other way. The deep pass falls incomplete, but that could be part of the game plan. Watch it here again. You have the play action fake, Kelsey goes onto his route, Keitzer releases late, and there's a chance for a big play here. So I could definitely see that being part of the plan. But now let's get to the two big ones. First of all, which quarterback will make more key plays in the clutch? At this point, it is very hard to deny that Brady is the GOAT, and also the most clutch quarterback we've ever seen. And while a lot of it early on was about Belichick and the New England system, there's a reason this is his 10th Super Bowl appearance, and he has had some of his finest moments in the second halves of these games. Whether it's leading late drives to set up Adam Vinatieri game-winning field goals early on in his career, famously taking the Patriots back from down 28-3 against Atlanta, or just making one or two plays late when he's needed most. Mahomes on the other side has a much smaller sample size, with this being just his third year as a starter, but he has already had some moments of brilliance himself, coming back from double-digit deficits in all three playoff games last year, and routinely delivering game-winning type plays or closing out contests with crucial first downs at the end. I'm not sure if there's anybody better at it right now. This is the latest example for Brady and his Hall of Fame tight end Rob Gronkowski from the Super Bowl 2 years ago against the Rams. They only scored 13 points in that game, and it certainly wasn't Brady's best performance, but midway through the fourth quarter, when they needed to put away the game, he delivered with this beauty, getting the ball to Gronk down the seams, right in front of the fingertips of a trailing linebacker, which set up the decisive touchdown in that game. And finally, who will win Super Bowl 55? On paper, the Bucs have the better and healthier roster at this moment. You look at the offensive line in particular, where they still have 4 of the day 1 starters, while the Chiefs' only full-time starter at that original position is center Austin Reiter, and they will have 2 guys at those tackle spots that have barely ever played there for Kansas City. When it comes to pass catches, it's hard to argue that you could put anybody above the Chiefs group of track stars, but you don't need a full hand to count off the teams that you would put ahead of the Bucs. There's also a pretty clear advantage on the defensive line for the home team, when you look at them being top 3 in pressure percentage, while Kansas City is outside the top 10, and while we'll give the Chiefs the nod in terms of the back end, seeing how they have stepped up so far this postseason at full health, the Bucs group has made plenty of plays to take them to the Super Bowl as well, and linebacker is not even a competition, seeing how Devin White and Lavonte David are flying around the field. Plus, of course, they have the #1 rush defense, while the Chiefs rank 21st, and they're both about average at running the ball themselves. Schematically, Tampa certainly has made some adjustments, having solutions for the blitz packages that Steve Spagnuolo will throw at them, and not allowing the Chiefs' two main weapons to beat them. Right now, I give the clear advantage to the reigning champs when it comes to the coaching staffs, and as great as Brady has been for 2 decades now, which is crazy in his own right, and how clutch he has been on the game's biggest stage, we may be witnessing the one guy who has a chance of dethroning him one day as the GOAT. Spags has a proven track record of success against Brady, and I'm sure Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy have been in the lab, cooking up new things to throw at this Bucs defense, figuring out ways to score points all 4 quarters. But in the end, it comes down to Patrick Mahomes, being able to make more plays that nobody else in football can. Shaq Barrett and JPP could have a field day against the 2 backup tackles, and I think Todd Bowles will also have a couple of things that the Chiefs haven't seen. But last year's Super Bowl MVP is the ultimate equalizer. He will shake out of a sack and find Kelsey for a huge 3rd down conversion, or he'll have another 12-step drop and fire a deep ball off his back foot to break Tampa's neck. So give me the Chiefs here, 34-28, and I'll take the chalk from Mahomes earning MVP honors, winning back-to-back titles, and setting the foundation for a potential dynasty in Kansas City. Here's a quick recap of all the questions. As I've already mentioned, I have a very detailed breakdown of this matchup on my page footballtalk.com, where I talk more about offensive personnel, formations, go into more detail about this prior matchup, things that I've seen, things I'd like to be adjusted by either team. And either Friday or Saturday, I will put up my picks for all the major NFL awards. You'll find that on all my social media channels. But now let's wrap up this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, share with a couple of friends to get them hyped up for the Super Bowl. Links to my page and my social media are down in the description. And I'll be back after the Super Bowl, breaking down everything that happened, before we get into draft season and talk about all the college prospects. So until then, see you later. Peace!